Hello everybody, this is Curtis Spivey with Team ABU Games with another bargain budget build. This week we're bringing you White Weenie, one of my all-time favorite decks. This is for the new standard again. We kind of got all these ones I've run through, and this one we really go low to the ground and we go wide. So let's go ahead and start with creatures because we got 30 of them, so let's go ahead and flood those boards. First card we got for one white, we've got Dauntless Bodyguard, and we have got 3 of them, and I'll talk about the numbers of why it's 3 as well. As Dauntless Bodyguard enters the battlefield, choose another creature you control, and if you do choose that creature, then you've got an ability on him that says sacrifice Dauntless Bodyguard, then chosen creature gains indestructible until end of turn. This is a super good ability to keep some of your bigger threats alive when you play them afterward, but again, we're kind of playing this for the 2/1 body, we want to punch through some ground. One card we found really good lately has been Hunted Witness. It's 1 white, it's a 1/1 human, and when Hunted Witness dies, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. So better on the backside when it does die, but just if we need to throw something away and somebody has to block, nobody wants to block this and give you a 1/1 lifelinker. You can just throw this out. You're trying to get the board filled. This is one, there's only 2 though because it is kind of the weakest creature in our deck, but really do want to flood out with those 1/1s. One card that got added late after a lot of practicing and trying to figure out what was the best way to go under some of these bigger decks is Leonin Vanguard. 1 white for a cat soldier, 1/1, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures, Leonin Vanguard gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and wait, there's more, you gain 1 life. You gain a life. Why that's added on there? It helps against all those aggressive decks, it helps against the burn, throwing something at it. No burn player wants to have to throw a shock at this, but they may have to, because just keep getting you that 1 life with 3 creatures. The fact that it really can become a 2/2 for 1 mana is great, but in the later game on that, just that 1 life every turn, it adds up when you're trying to punch through that last points of damage. Now I've got another 3 of with Skymarcher Aspirant, 1 white, Vampire Soldier. It's a 2/1 with Ascend. And if you get Ascend, so if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. Skymarcher's Aspirant has flying as long as you got the City's Blessing. Now here's the thing, we're not trying to go too wide with City's Blessing. If we were running Histories of Benalia, which are definitely out of our budget build on this one, you would want to include them. But this will just kind of go ahead and give you if you do get to that mark, but really we're just trying to push through this early damage with a 2/1, and that's really what this is, White Weenie. And then we're going to find out how we're going to kind of pump them. Now, I've kind of mentioned some other videos how much I love this card, but Adanto Vanguard, I can't explain how fantastic this card is. I feel that it's undervalued at just getting changed to pick these up. Let's go ahead and talk about why it's so good. It's 1 colorless and a white. It's a vampire soldier. It's only a 1/1, but if it's attacking, it gets +2/+0. So for 2 men, you really are getting a attacking 3/1, and you can pay 4 life, and it gains indestructible. All the wraths that are being run right now don't get rid of this. And you're like, well, what's that mean? There's Settle the Wreckage is in the format. There's Clarion. Well, Clarion doesn't. Settle the Wreckage does. But Settle the Wreckage is just on the downturn. They're just trying to make sure because your opponent has to attack with it. So if your opponent doesn't have it, this really is punishing. And a lot of the Jeskai decks lately have removed it. So this is just a reoccurring source unless they want to hit it and try to kill it and make you pay 4 life every turn. So it's just so good. It just gives you that whole backing. Can't recommend this enough. One of the most important 2 drops in the deck. Next one we've got is a Knight of Grace, and Knight of Grace is really awesome. This will be our other 4 of as well. It is a 2/2 knight, 1 colorless and 1 white. Brings back memories of White Knight when I was a kid, protection from black. Wizards doesn't really like to print protection from a full in color anymore because that means it can block anything and just causes some kind of unfun gameplay. But this does have hexproof from black and first strike. So this just means it can't be the target of black spells or abilities your opponents control, but don't attack into a black creature with this or think that this can destroy any black. Black creatures can still do it, damage to it, it can still die. But if your opponent does have a black permanent out, this also gets +1/+0, so it's a 3/2 first strike, which really is pretty boss at getting across the board. And if you do pump it, any part that you get just makes this so strong. Another kind of reason we're playing this deck is the 4 of, we need to have some kind of Anthem effect. The Anthem effect we have in this one is a Benalish Marshal. 3 white, so kind of a strong white requirement, so we are mono white. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. So it's a 3/3 that can attack through. It can just do so much damage. It's so good at pumping your early team. First 2 turns, you do 1-drop, 1-drop and another 1-drop, or 1-drop and a 2-drop and drop this. They could be down to 10 health. I mean, it really does punch through that strong. And that's the have to remove. Then they can't deal with your early creatures. And the next one that we have is a real big special friend of mine, Leonin Warleader. 2 colorless and 2 white for a 4/4 cat soldier. And when Leonin Warleader attacks, create 2 1/1 white creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. So this is already a 4/4 for 4, but just the fact that you have so many anthem effects for this, it is so good at being able to just go ahead and get through damage. If you have out the Benalish Marshal before, you're attacking with 2 2/2s and a 5/5 that happen every turn. That's just good game, and they have to pick which one they want to remove, because this does not die to a lot of removal. Now, this does die to Lava Coil. That's one thing, it will happen, but you've just got to take the good with the bad. Lava Coil will get you, but let's hope they have to spend that on one of the early creatures. The last 4 we have in the deck for the creatures, we've almost gone through all 30, 26 down, 4 to go. Venerated Loxodon. This is a boss. It's 4 colorless and 1 white. Convoke, and what Convoke does is you can tap creatures to help cast for this, and for each creature you tap, it becomes 1 colorless or 1 mana of that creature's color. And when the Venerated Loxodon enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 on each creature that convoked it. So your early drops, you could play this as soon as turn 3, and you could put +1/+1s on your early guys. Then you have a 4/4 out, and then you can drop the Benalish Marshal. It just ends games. That's the creatures you have. This can be an anthem effect that you have. You can also get your Warleader up to a 5/5, so it doesn't die to Lava Coil too. Let's talk about the 4 spells, and then we'll go over it because we do have 6 enchantments. We have got one of my favorite things of all time in this deck. We've got Charge! Dominaria All-Star. No, it really wasn't. But for all those decks out there that are running Chain Whirler still, they are on the down low, and this deck can fold to it. You need to have some ways to make sure your critters are good. So Charge, like it sounds, is 1 white, it's an instant, and creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. If your board's already wide, this can just finish off the game. But that's why we've kind of got 3 other cards in here to help do that as well, with Pride of the Conquerors. Let's talk about this and how awesome it is. It's 1 colorless and a white, it's an instant, and it's got Ascend, and creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. So that's what you use it for most of the time. If you end up playing this and do have 10 permanents on the board with the Ascend, creatures, and you have the City as a Blessing, your creatures get +2/+2 until end of turn. That can just hammer away the game. Even the +1/+1 can really do it. And if you have 2 of these, and I've had plenty of boards filled up, they just smash decks. People are main decking Disdainful Strokes right now. That counters a casting cost of 4 or more. This deck barely even thinks about that and has a total of 6 creatures that are even at that number. And you can push through damage. This is so important for the decks, and so those decks that are greedy, this will give you that extra push just to finish the game off, even if they killed a creature and think they're safe. Just the extra 2 damage if you have 2 more creatures from either of these Charge or Pride of the Conquerors is just amazing. Now let's go over what you can do in your early game with the enchantments. Did want to make sure that we can kind of spoil ourselves on the budget here. We've got 2 Legions Landing. These do keep going up right now. That's one of the bigger problems, but they're so good. Let's talk about why. When Legion's Landing enters the battlefield for 1 white, create a 1/1 white vampire creature token with lifelink. Helps fill that board. And when you attack with 3 or more creatures, transform it. Now, when you transform it, this is the big thing that you're looking to do. Because when you do transform it at that point, you are going to have the ability to go wide with tokens. Now, we only have 2 of these. It is legendary, and that's really not a bad thing. If we could run 4, we would. Because when it does flip at this point, for 2 colorless and 1 white, it does become a land, so it does ramp you at that point. And you can go ahead and you can pay that to get another 1/1 vampire with lifelink. Now, this is just going to help you fill out the board. It can help you hit Ascend, and you can just keep pushing and pushing and pushing with more tokens or chump blocking. It does so much work with the lifelink on it. It just does a lot. Legion's Landing is fantastic. If we did have a room in the budget, we'd absolutely have the 4 of. Let's Let's go ahead and move to a card that has become a budget replacement and just making sure we can O-ring stuff, so that's Oblivion Ring. We've got Conclave Tribunal. This is 3 colorless and a white enchantment, and it's got Convoke, so we can tap our creatures to help pay for it. And when Conclave Tribunal enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls, or until Conclave Tribunal leaves the battlefield. This is your catch-all. You can cast it for so cheap with your creatures if you get stonewalled by a big deck or something that's causing problems. You see a big 6/6 flyer coming at you because somebody played the Whisper. You can get rid of it that way. You can get rid of the Lyra that would give you a bad day. This just helps you push through. There's 4 automatically put in the main. Really simple. You need an extra piece removal you can cast for cheap. Let's go over a very complicated mana base, 20 planes. I know it's in depth. You really want to make sure you play. You can't afford a tap land in a deck like this. If we go back, and that's one of the saddest things, is we miss some of the deserts from the last set, because being able to pump and just being able to play all those awesome lands that they had helped the decks. We don't have that anymore, so we're just going straight with 20 planes. Let's go ahead and talk about our sideboard though, and some kind of crazy creatures and things that we have. One thing I put in here for burn that found out that they can't beat a card, Ajani's Welcome. 1 white, it's an enchantment, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So this is just gain life after gain life after gain life. You play so many little 1-drops out that this can just flood to the point that it doesn't matter how many burn spells they have. You're so wide with creatures in that one that you can just take over the game. You gain almost infinite life from casting them. Every time you use your Legion's Landing, you can tap your land for it. If you can convert it over, you can just put in more creatures. It just does so much work. It's so good. Next one's a Baffling End. There is some smaller creatures we do need to get rid of, and what the Baffling End does for us, it's a 1 colorless and a white, it's an enchantment. Whenever Baffling End enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls with converted mana cost 3 or less. When Baffling End leaves the battlefield, target opponent creates a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with trample. So kind of awesome things. It removes the creature permanently if it's 3 or less. One big problem with the deck that it has is if your opponent plays a Wild Growth Walker, which are popular in Golgari. You gotta remove that. You can't let them get out of control because their creatures can just get bigger. And once you can remove that, the rest of their creatures don't seem so bad, and we actually match up really well with First Strike. Next thing that I put in here to make sure that you can take care of those Lyras if you don't get the Tribunal and you go wider is Bounty Agent. Love the picture on it, looks so awesome. It's a 1 colorless and a white. It's a human soldier. It's got Vigilance to help pound that damage in. But sacrifice Bounty Hunter and tap it. Destroy target legendary permanent that's an artifact creature enchantment, and it's a 2/2. So it's just a bear, so like a 2/2 should be. And it can just help give you that extra amount of resistance while still putting in creatures to the board. It's just so good. It does everything that you need. The next thing on here, and this is a personal favorite that I have on here, is the Dawn of Hope. I'm running 3 of them, and we talked about it first, like, why am I worrying about this lifelink? Why is 1 for each creature I play gonna matter? Why would I bring this in? This is when you need to go against control decks. This is a 1 colorless and a white, called Dawn of Hope enchantment, and I'm running 3. I like it that much with the Johnnies in here. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2 colorless. If you do, draw a card. So play a creature, draw a card. Draw a card, draw a card. It's so good at doing that whenever you play a creature with this, and that's the whole sideboard. If they're burning you out, you have some, you can go so wide. But here's the other thing about this. This can also help you go wide by putting out more creatures. 3 colorless, 1 white. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. This just helps you grind out. So if you have decks with tons of removal, you can really kind of convert to almost like a white control deck, which is super awesome in this format to be able to hold down. Just because I do love Pride of Conquerors and didn't want to put 4 in the main, I really like the mana flexibility of 1 charge because nobody sees the charge coming. I did want to put 1 more Pride of Conquerors in the sideboard, so there's 1 more there. Now, let's talk about the boss of Standard right now. It's kind of taken over after GP last weekend. Tocatli the Honor Guard. She's a creature, 1 colorless and a white, human soldier. Creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. It's a 1/3 on the front. It can stop the green-black decks You've also got the Ajani's Welcome, you've got the Baffling End. You can really change your deck to combat the type of deck you're trying to fight without diluting your deck. You're still a white weenie, you're still putting through damage, but those green-black decks, anything with the creatures with enter the battlefield abilities, this just stops. It's so great, but enters the battlefield, it won't matter. All those other explore creatures, and even the deck that I played against the other day, had somebody play this against me. If you didn't remove it, you were just done without your explorer. So this is a white weenie deck from Curtis Spivey here at Team ABU Games.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Joe, Content Production Manager here at ABU Games, and I just wanted to say thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed Curtis's latest video. If you like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and click that bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming content. And of course, you can get all of the singles you need to build this deck and more at abugames.com. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Another bargain budget build. And
You
this,
did it
oh
again.
god.
You said bargain.
Did I say, damn it. That cracks me up. Okay. Bargain budget build. I don't know why.